Today, you're going to learn how to choose and install your own four-wheel drive battery. Super simple and pretty rewarding, I reckon. But before we get into that, we're going to go over there and I'll talk to you about how you know if your battery's actually dead. Your first port of call is the multimeter. Now that's set for 12 volts. Touch that on there and I've got 12.6 volts. The problem with using the multimeter is that if your car's just been running and the battery's been receiving charge, that voltage is going to appear higher than it actually is. So leave it for a couple of hours or leave it overnight and come out and test it in the morning will give you a more accurate reading. So your multimeter says that your voltage is a bit low, but don't rely just on that to determine that the battery's dead. More accurate is to get a load test done. So if you go to a local auto parts shop, they're going to be able to do a test like that for you. This one has been tested and its rated capacity is 600 cranking amps. It's coming out at 380. So it's getting a little bit low, and combined with that voltage and the fact that I estimate it to be 5 years old, she's ready for replacement. Your very first step is to disconnect your negative terminal. You see, if we were undoing this and we accidentally contact metal, nothing happens. If you do the same with the positive terminal and you contact metal, there will be fireworks. Now, with the negative terminal disconnected, if I was to accidentally bump this spanner between the positive terminal and something metal, kidding, nothing would happen. Got you there. Completely safe. So now the positive terminal comes off. Here's a side note for anyone that owns a newer four-wheel drive. I'd recommend you look up some specific instructions for your vehicle. Now the reason being, in your newer four-wheel drive, you've got I don't know how many computers all through here. They rely on this guy to keep their memory up. A lot of these computers learn the way you drive and patterns and fuel and all sorts of stuff. Disconnect that battery and it can forget all of that. Now it's not going to be catastrophic in most cases. It might just run a bit funny for the next few days while it relearns. But there's other problems at play as well. Your radio generally needs a security code if it loses power, which is an anti-theft function. If you have an alarm, that's probably going to scream the moment the battery is disconnected or reconnected. But there's something to save you. This little device, up on the screen in front of you right there, right now, plugs into your diagnostic port. In this case, that's an OBD2 diagnostic port plug thingamawatsit, and that provides power to your system through the OBD port. You don't lose your radio codes, your computer keeps all its memory, your central locking doesn't bugger up, and hopefully your alarm doesn't go off. So those can be had pretty cheaply if you look around. This being a patrol, pretty old, easy thing, don't need any of that. The worst that I'm going to have is I'll lose all my radio presets. Set them again in 2 minutes. Easy done. Now, we just remove the battery clamp. And we can haul the battery out. But be warned, it's heavy. So, assuming you need to choose a new battery, you can use the book, look up the right one for your vehicle. Certain battery manufacturers might have an app you can use, or you can go on their website and they often have something to help you choose there. If that fails, it's time to take a few notes. So, have a look at your old battery. Got the cold cranking amps on the top there, that is 600 cold cranking amps. Take note of the reserve minutes, 135 minutes. The terminal orientation, you want to make sure you get them around the same way and make sure that they're the same size as well. You might even want to get out a tape measure and take the dimensions of the battery just for good measure. And of course, never hurts to take a picture on your phone or something and take that in with you. So this is my new battery, the Century Ultra High Performance. Obviously your dimensions have to be the same, it's got to fit in the space. Terminal's the right way around, but there's a few things you can change if you like. For example, cold cranking amps. So I said that one was 600. This one is 810. Now what that means is the extra power is not going to overload your vehicle, it just means it's got that extra power there ready to be used. However, if you're using that extra capacity, it's going to take longer for your alternator to bring it back up to charge. Then there's reserve capacity. So this one is 185. This one, as I said, was 135. Now, reserve capacity is how they measure the capability of the battery to run things like your stereo or your interior lights if you leave them on. That 135 versus 185 is measured in minutes. Obviously, the higher the number, the longer it's going to run. And lastly, in my opinion, you want to choose a wet cell for cranking. There's other types you could choose. There's like gel, AGM, lithium, but they're all for very special circumstances, so I'm not going to go into that here. That's the sort of thing you're going to have to go and speak to a professional about. The standard version of the battery I've chosen comes with just a 12-month warranty and a little slightly lower reserve capacity and cranking amps. This extra cranking amp capacity is going to come in really handy for when very shortly a winch goes on the front of this car. There'll be a bit more juice in there to power that. Okay, here's a good chance to clean out the battery tray. Clean out any mud and beach sand that's in there or leaves that have collected and check it for rust. Also, have you ever seen when you get that white stuff built up around your battery terminals, around in here? Maybe you see it on the top of your battery as well. Well, that is lead sulfate, and that occurs when your battery gets old, or also if it's leaked a little bit of acid out the top, which, you know, isn't too uncommon given what we do, four-wheel driving and all the bumps. A little bit of acid can come out of the breather holes, gets around there and causes this lead sulfate corrosion. Now you want to make sure that hasn't got down into your metal battery tray as well, because that acid will cause rust real quick, like quicker than beach sand, beach salt, anything. How do you get rid of it? Easy. Bit of hot water with some bicarb soda, tip it over your battery terminals, wash it over all of any acid spills in the bottom, neutralize the acid. Too easy. One more thing though, have a look at the battery terminals. Aside from checking for corrosion, make sure that all your bolts are tight. In the end here where the power cable connects, make sure that's not loose. And if they're really bad, give them a clean up with a wire brush, because if you've got problems with your battery terminals, it causes poor connections and it can even cause your four-wheel drive to not start at all. Maybe you don't have a dead battery, maybe it's just crusty, rusty, horrible old battery terminals. Now your new battery is likely to come with little protectors on the terminals. Helps prevent the risk of them shorting out, obviously. I like to leave them on there as long as possible, including when I lift it into the car. But, of course, don't go and put your terminals over the top of them, or nothing will happen. Now, to get this into place, you might want the help of a friend. When I was less of a beefcake battery changing machine, I was lifting one of these up into place, and my arms just sort of slowly started to give way. Didn't quite make it, and I slowly placed it down on top of the coolant overflow bottle because I couldn't hold it anymore, and it cracked. So a friend might be helpful here. As you're placing the battery, be careful not to tilt it. If you do, a little bit of acid could leak out. And as we all know, acid spills are no fun at all. Fixing the battery in place is pretty much just the reverse of how you took it out. The clamp goes in first, followed by the positive terminal, and then the negative terminal. I like to leave the caps on until the very last moment. So, take the cap off the positive terminal and put the positive cable on. I'll just leave the cap on the negative until I replace the negative terminal. Just as an extra level of safety, I suppose. Battery terminal protector. Some people love it, some people hate it. If you've had problems with lead sulfate buildup in the past, this may help, so it's worth applying. And finally, hot tip. Nobody ever remembers the exact date they installed a battery, so write it on top with a permanent marker. And there you go. I hope this video has given you the confidence you need to play around with your battery, whether you're replacing it or just cleaning terminals or doing a bit of general battery maintenance. I know a lot of you are quite seasoned pros, so hopefully you even picked up a little tip or two. I know I did when I was researching this. Now, I know you're wondering, what do I do with the old battery? Well, luckily, most places will take them for free. I know the local tip down here, take batteries for free. Some places will even pay you a small amount for your old batteries, so maybe enough for a midi at the pub or a soda water, something a bit more responsible. But anyway, if you found this video helpful, make sure you go down there and give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more little handy automotive backyard mechanic tips in the future. It's been great having you along, and I'll see you next time.